Om Shri Sai Ram. I offer my most humble pranams at your lotus feet, Bhagwan, with prayers to you that let your words, let your thoughts, let your feelings flow through all of us. That is the only thing that makes our moments, our days, our lives worthwhile. Let me start off with a story of the popular Akbar and Birbal. Birbal was one among the 9 gems at the court of the greatest Mughal emperor of India, Akbar. And he was very wise, he was very intelligent, very clever. Based on that, a lot of stories and folklore have been generated. Some of them are true, some of them are not. But all of them carry a beautiful message and they are humorous. So Akbar Birbal stories are very, very popular. Once Akbar and Birbal were taking a walk in the garden and Akbar said, Birbal, I am a person who loves all religions. But there's one thing about your religion that I don't understand. What is that? Akbar says that when God is all powerful, God is almighty, He is omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent. I understand that we call God by different names. Why is it that God has to come to earth? You have this concept of avatar. Why should God come to earth to do anything when God is all powerful? And Birbal has no reply to this. And Akbar smiles because it's very rare that he finds Birbal without an answer. And the topic is left there at that. The walk continues, the talk continues on other topics. In the meanwhile, what Birbal does is, in the evening he goes to a person who makes dolls and idols. And he gets a doll made in the exact likeness of the emperor's grandson Salim. And once that is done, a few days later, when they are going for a walk again in the garden, Birbal has this doll thrown into the pond there. And then suddenly he shouts out, Jahapana, Jahapana, Salim has fallen in the water. And Akbar turns and sees his grandson in the water. He doesn't know how to swim. The emperor rushes and jumps into the water, into the pond there, the royal pond. And then when he touches, he realizes that it's not his grandson. He gets very angry. He shouts out, who is this who has played this prank? Everyone is silent and Birbal is smiling. And he says, Birbal, you better have a good reason for why you did this. This is not funny at all. And the emperor comes out of the pond. He has his change and then he summons Birbal, asks to explain himself. And Birbal then tells the emperor, he says, Jahapana, you are the emperor, the monarch of this empire. Everybody listens to you. You have army generals, you have sports people, you have who not. In the garden itself, you have so many soldiers who are ready to do your bidding at the slightest indication. And yet, when you felt that your grandson was in the pond, had fallen into the pond, why is it that you didn't tell anybody to rescue him? Why did you yourself have to come into the pond? Akbar then realizes. Birbal says, for the Lord, his devotees are so dear. He cannot wait to tell all the others, or he cannot. That's why he himself, the Lord himself, rushes. And that is why the avatar descends to earth. We have been so blessed and fortunate to have seen, experienced, felt, touched possibly, spoken to one such avatar. Speaking of Swami as the avatar, I am reminded of another thing. I used to always wonder, why is it that only, among the different gods in the Hindu religion, in the Sanatana Dharma, we have lakhs of gods. But the 3 main deities are Brahma, Vishnu and Maheshwara. Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva. Brahma is the creator, Vishnu is the sustainer, and Shiva is the destroyer. They go by GOD, generator, organizer, destroyer. That's how Swami would say. So Brahma apparently has been cursed. That's a different story. I won't go into it. That he will never be worshipped on earth. Vishnu has taken multiple avatars. We have Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Narsimha, all these. Shiva doesn't seem to take any avatars only. In the sense, there are manifestations of Lord Shiva in different forms on the earth, but it is a kind of a Karana avatar. Means it comes for one purpose, achieves that purpose and goes back. It's not like there is a birth, there is a growth, there is a childhood, like how we have Rama, Krishna, our own Swami. So I used to wonder, why is it that Shiva never takes avatarhood? I got the answer from my little daughter Bhakti, who is now about 6 years old. I asked her, why Bhakti, that only Vishnu takes avatar and Shiva doesn't take avatar? Her answer was spontaneous, and she said, it's so simple, Dad. Vishnu lives in Vaikuntha in the heavens. That's why he has to descend to the earth. Shiva lives in Kailasha, it's already on earth. What? There is no need of avatar, he's already in the earth. But that was a very simple answer, and children are so simple, plain, uncomplicated, direct. Probably that's why they are closest to God, because that's how God is also: spontaneous, simple, direct, uncomplicated. But then, having known Swami, we know that Shiva indeed takes avatar. And today I would like to go into that aspect of that first occasion when Swami actually revealed that he is the avatar of Shiva. Not just Shiva, Shiva and Shakti, both. That was also the occasion which saw a stupendous miracle. That was also the occasion where Swami, for the first time ever, spoke of Prema Sai Baba. And that is the occasion of Guru Poornima in 1963. But before that momentous occasion, it was possibly the most torrid and terrible times for everyone around, Swami and devotees included. And that was a very dark phase which resulted in something very bright and glorious. And I feel it is so apt to speak about this, reminisce this, think about it, because many times we feel that the phase of life that we are going through, or the times we are going through, are so dark. Is there light at the end of the tunnel? This experience, this incident will touch our hearts, tug at our hearts, but inspire our hearts, ignite our minds, and show us that however dark be the night, the dawn is always there. And for us, the dawn. Swami is the dawn. D-A-W-N, D-O-N as well. So all this, began on the 28th of June 1963. That time Swami was staying at the Prashanti Mandir. So Swami would stay in a small room that is definitely smaller than all the rooms that we are all possibly seated in. Barely about 18 feet by 18 feet. Though the mandir is large, Swami's room is so small. It has always been like that. Even in Yajur Mandir, the Yajur Mandir is so big. But Swami's room is not as big as the Yajur Mandir appears to be. So Swami has always, Swami has taught us how to live when we don't have much worldly resources. And Swami has shown us also how to live when we have all the resources in the world. And in both cases, it is the same manner. It is the same manner. We don't lose self-respect, self-esteem when we don't have worldly possessions. We don't get proud and boastful and show off when we have all the worldly possessions. We are who we are. That is Swami's life teaching for us. His life is his message. So on this day, as Swami was going to retire in his room, he calls Professor Kasturi, who was at that point in time a kind of all-rounder for the ashram. From being the postmaster to the administrative head to the editor of Sanatan Sarthi, multiple roles he was performing. Swami's translator he was, Swami's trusted confidant. So Swami told Professor Kasturi, announce to the devotees that from tomorrow onward there will be no darshan. Professor Kasturi began to wonder, why is it that Swami is saying like this? What has he got planned? Is Swami leaving for some place? Why is this announcement suddenly being made? But he agreed, he told yes Swami, and he sincerely went and made the announcement. He was a multilinguist, so he made these announcements in English, Telugu, Tamil, Kannada, Malayalam. One person, he made the announcement and he said, tomorrow onwards Swami will not be coming for darshan. Why? What happened? He also has no idea. Till when? No idea. Nothing else. There is nothing more or nothing less than this message to convey. And then in the morning of the 29th June, the next day, Professor Kasturi understands why Swami told this. Swami used to stay in a small room, and bang opposite to that room was another small room in the mandir. Swami would walk across the corridor. This is the corridor that comes behind the silver door balcony in Prashantinilayam. He would walk across the corridor, go to the other room, have his meals there, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then return back to his room. So as Swami completed breakfast and was returning back to his room, he suddenly collapsed. Just fell into a heap. Professor Kasturi was there behind him. He quickly rushed, tried to hold him. Swami, in 1963, this is, Swami would have, his body would have been about 37 years old. Professor Kasturi, his age is much elder. He held, but he couldn't cushion Swami much. So Swami collapsed in a heap. His leg went rigid, left leg, left hand went rigid, left half of the face became taut, the eyeball was stuck, the teeth were clenched, and that's it. Swami seemed to lose consciousness. Professor Kasturi didn't know what to do. He quickly summoned the help of Raja Reddy. Raja Reddy sir, who used to also stay with Swami and serve Swami, great servitor of the Lord. In fact, you can go to YouTube and search for Raja Reddy interviews and see his interviews. Amazing, beautiful experiences. A great devotee of the Lord. Our pranams to him. Just as we offer pranams to Professor Kasturi as well. So both of them somehow dragged and carried Swami to his room, put him on the bed, and now they don't know what to do. Professor Kasturi realizes, oh, this is why Swami said there will be no darshan. What do we tell the devotees? But, both of them had stayed with Swami and they had experienced such things multiple times. So, they thought they would wait it out. For instance, Swami had done one such thing at Kodaikanal. Again, as I said, this is well documented in the Satyam Shivam Sundaram. What happens is, in 1956 in India, there was a States Reorganization Act in which many states of India were actually redefined and the borders were drawn. A lot of changes happened in the political map of India. At that point in time, many of the IAS officers of the Indian Administrative Service were transferred, promoted, moved around. A lot of changes took place. There was one officer in the city of Bhopal in the state of Madhya Pradesh who was very dejected with all the changes that had happened. Why? Because all his juniors and those who were much lower than him in rank had got promoted, upgraded, but he did not get any pay rise or any increment, any kind of promotion. He was very depressed. So depressed that he didn't want to see daylight at all. This is something that often happens when we feel very sad. When we feel very sad and get very depressed, we start taking sleeping pills sometimes. Why? Because sleep comes as a comfortable thing. I want to be in the embrace of sleep because in sleep all my worries go away. We become lethargic. We just want to be switched off in the mind. That is the reason why in depression people turn to drugs, people turn to bad habits, people turn to alcohol, people turn to pills, and in the worst case, people turn to death because they feel death will end all these. It's not true though. Swami, I forget the exact discourse, Swami has very clearly said that death only kills the body. It doesn't do anything to the mind. Swami says the body is like the house in which we live. When we vacate a house, before we vacate a house, we need to prepare another house ready for us to enter. If we don't do that, we will be on the streets. And Swami says that is what happens to the indweller of the body in the case of a suicide. The other house is not yet prepared and you keep roaming neither here nor there. But anyway, this officer, he had his own revolver. He loaded enough bullets in it to ensure that, his misery would come to an end. He even test fired a shot, not bothering whether the neighbors would hear it or not, because it doesn't matter. By the time they come and check on him, he would have already finished. He would have finished himself. Job would be done. It was at this point in time, Swami was at Kodaikanal in the summer of 1957. And Swami suddenly got up from his bed, shouting, "Stop, don't shoot!" And he collapsed. At that time, with Swami was a sannyasi, Swami Sachidananda. He was from the Divine Life Society at Rishikesh, a disciple of Swami Shivananda, who had been very moved by what Swami spoke, what Swami is, and he was spending time with Swami. And that is what happened. Many weeks later, on the 29th of June 1957 to be precise, that was another beautiful day, because that was the day Swami had taken all the devotees with him to the banks of river Chitravati. And from the sands of the river, Swami brought out copper and brass plates with mysterious markings on them. And those copper plates were taken to the top of the Vidyagiri hill, and there a banyan tree was planted on top of it, what we call today as the Vatavriksha. Om Sri Sai Sadhaka Anugraha Vatavriksha Pratishtapakaya Namaha. If I am not mistaken, that is the 97th name in the Sri Sathya Sai Ashtotra Sveta Namavali. And Swami on that day said that this tree will attract all those spiritual aspirants who are ready, and they will come and meditate under this tree. On that occasion, Swami Sachidananda took Swami's permission and narrated what had happened that day at Kodaikanal when Swami had collapsed. Because a few days later, a letter arrived to Kodaikanal, and that letter actually told them what all had happened at Bhopal at precisely the moment Swami had shouted, "Stop, don't shoot." In Bhopal, this officer was about to shoot himself when he heard a loud bang on the door. Who was it at this point in time? He got nervous, quickly put the gun under a sheet, covered it up, and rushed down. Opened the door. It was a college friend of his. He had landed up there with his wife. There was also a porter who was carrying a big box, luggage, and he was wondering how come did his classmate drop in at this point in time. So he invited them into the house, and they began talking and reminiscing the college days. And as they spoke, they began to laugh. They were so happy. For about 1 hour, this friend kept speaking, and it was a great time. He came out of his depression. And then suddenly the friend said, "Oh, I have to go." This was a point in time when this officer was all alone. His wife had gone to her native village. The wife was a devotee of Swami. He wasn't. He wasn't a devotee of Swami. His wife was a devotee of Swami. But she wasn't there at home. And here the college friend says, "I'm sorry I took so much of your time." He says, "Hey, don't tell like this, man. It was such a good time that we spent together. Please stay on." Friend says, No, I have to get going. I'll leave now." And again the same way with his wife and with the porter, with the hold all, the luggage, everything, they leave. And his officer now is in much better spirits. And he's wondering, oh, what was I going to do now? So he goes back up to the room where he had kept his gun, revolver under the sheet. I don't know if he goes up or down. I don't know if it was a one-story house. That's how it's in my mind. But he goes to that bedroom where the revolver is there. Now, during this 1 hour that the friend was there, Swami is just lying on the bed in Kodaikanal. And then he gets up and immediately tells Swami Sachidananda, tells him, "I want a telegram to be sent to Bhopal to this address right now." Okay, yes Swami, we will send it immediately. What is the telegram? Send the telegram, don't worry, the revolver is with me. Sri Sathya Sai Baba. Then Swami Sachidananda says, Swami, what is this message? Don't worry, the revolver is with me. Swami, it will get us into trouble because this telegram everybody will be seeing. In these modern days, possibly we don't know what a telegram is, especially the younger generation. In the earlier times, it was the fastest mode of communication. Like an SMS, it was like an SMS, like WhatsApp today, So basically you go to the post office and you give a message as brief as possible in something called the Morse code. They will send it via the wire. That message will be received there instantly and they will print it on a card and go and deliver the card to whoever has to be, whoever is the recipient. This whole process will happen within 1 hour or 2 hours. Fastest way of communication. There weren't telephones also in India back then. So, there were telephones, but they were not like everybody is having a phone. So, Swami Sachidananda tells Swami, can I modify the word revolver? Revolver will be very scary to put. Shall I put it as the instrument is with me? Swami said, yeah, okay, fine. That's also fine. Send that message. So, the telegram has been sent. In the meanwhile, in Bhopal, what has happened? This officer goes to his bedroom and sees that the gun is missing. Wondering, what happened? I kept it here only. I had loaded all the bullets also. Keep searching. Frantically searching because, that is not something that you want to lose, a gun. 15-20 minutes later, another knock on the door. And there's a telegram. Don't worry. The instrument is with me. From Baba. So, why I shared this beautiful episode that's documented in Satyam Shivam Sundaram is that it's not as if Professor Kasturi and Raja Reddy are unaware of Swami doing these transcorporeal journeys. So they thought that this time also Swami has done a transcorporeal journey, he has gone somewhere. But afternoon came, no, Swami is not coming back. Swami is also moaning and groaning. And to see Swami like that, it was making their heart bleed. It's not as if silently Swami is lying down. Swami is evidently suffering. Half of his body is paralyzed. Swami is looking comatose. What has happened? It becomes evening and still there is no much change in Swami's situation. Not knowing what to do, they summon a doctor from the general hospital. So Dr. B.G. Krishnamurti, he comes to Swami. And as soon as he sees Swami, he is again struck. Tears roll down his eyes. To see your beloved, to see your Lord, to see your Guru, to see your God in such situation. In fact, this doctor, B.G. Krishnamurti, he later confessed that many times in the general hospital when they would get cases which he is not able to understand or do something about, he would not give medicines and administer vibhuti. That is the kind of faith, based on their experience. And many are the experiences of people who have got cured by just vibhuti. They are all documented in the Sanatana Sarthi earlier issues. He didn't know anything else. He was thinking, do I give vibhuti now? I don't know what else to do. I really have no idea. His diagnosis was that Swami has had apoplexy and he is in a coma. That's all. And he said, I think we should get some other doctor, definitely. And when it became quite late in the night, in a village in those days, 8:30, 9 o'clock is quite late in the night. They said, I think we should get a big doctor. So in the night itself, a car was dispatched to Bangalore. And it was after midnight that they reached the home of Dr. Prasanna Simha Rao. Dr. Prasanna Simha Rao was the assistant director in the Mysore Medical Services and very well-known doctor. And immediately he is also a devotee of Swami. He rushed in the middle of the night itself and early in the morning they arrived at Puttaparthi. And again when this doctor enters, this is the 30th of June. It's a Sunday morning. And he sees Swami's hands are twitching. Swami is groaning and moaning. Suddenly Swami's head moves as if there are shocks going through his body. And he just doesn't know. And he says he would like to do a lumbar puncture, to take cerebrospinal fluid from the spinal cord. He needs to do that to diagnose and confirm his diagnosis, because his diagnosis was that Swami is having tubercular meningitis, wherein this tuberculosis bacteria has affected the brain, because of which there is a paralytic stroke. It has affected the right brain, that's why the left half of the body is in a paralytic stroke. But to confirm it, he needs to do a lumbar puncture. For that, he needs equipment. This is not the place to do it. So he immediately suggests that we could try these medications, and Swami needs to get nutrition. Swami's mouth is tightly clenched shut. No way can Swami eat or drink. So we should try intravenous. And that is when, he tries to do an intravenous drip. And Swami, that is the first time Swami opens his eyes and pushes it away angrily. Just refuses any kind of medication. And again goes back into that coma. Now he doesn't know what to do. He just folds his hand in prayer. And he says, I just don't know what else to be done. So this doctor returns to Bangalore on Sunday evening. Nothing has happened. And Sunday night, Dr. B.G. Krishnamurti records, Swami suffers a massive heart attack, angina pectoris. His whole body shakes and shivers, and now they're all in tears. Professor Kasturi, everybody. Swami, they have not seen. It's tough to see their Swami suffer. When we hear it itself, we feel so much pain. How much it must have been for them to witness this. We often think these people are very lucky. They have served Swami, they have stayed with him closely. Dear brothers and sisters, the close servitors of Bhagwan, when I say close, I am talking of physical proximity, not dearness. Because dearness to Bhagwan, we can stay at the Arctic Circle or in Antarctica and get it. But physical nearness is a double-sided, it's a coin with two sides. There are great opportunities of proximity, but there are great things that have to be borne as well. We don't understand, but we should definitely identify with all these people whom Swami has chosen to physically serve him at his residence. Starting from whoever, Professor Kasturi, Raja Reddy Garu, so many people. All of them we should mentally salute and understand what all they have gone through. I would not want to trade my places with Professor Kasturi or anybody, Brother Satyajit possibly later. So much. When Swami is, whole world turns to Swami for solution. What solution can we give Swami? Swami is physically suffering like this. When this happened, the night, they have not had sleep because Swami has undergone this heart attack. And Monday turned out to be a moan day. Because Swami is filled with groans and moans. The 1st of July. But for the first time, Swami opens his eyes and he is attempting to speak. Very hard to speak because left half of his body is totally paralyzed. Hand can't move, leg can't move. And somehow now they are trying to force open the teeth and pour in with tablespoon, with teaspoons. Some lime juice, some sugar, something to nourish that body that is so dear to all of us with great difficulty. But Swami opens his eyes and he's speaking. He's speaking in hisses. It's so difficult to make out what he's telling. But Professor Kasturi, Raja Reddy, they're there. They try to put their ear, try to listen and find out what is it. And you know what the Lord says? Swami says, the devotees must be so anxious, must be so worried. They must be so tired. Tell them to go home. Don't tell them anything that has happened. Calm them. Give them vibhuti. Give them prasadam. Let them go home. Swami, there also you are thinking of devotees. Swami, what divine love this is, A devotee yearns, pines and thinks of Swami. And Swami yearns, pines and thinks of the devotee. This is the message. And Professor Kasturi, once again, he has to go and make this announcement. And till now, if their sorrow was at this level, after this their sorrow goes to the next level. Why? Because when you hear Swami speak, you feel that you don't know whether you want to be happy about him speaking or not. Because Swami, when you didn't speak, it wasn't so painful. When you speak, it's paining even more. But well, duty has to be done. So Professor Kasturi goes down and makes this announcement again in 5 languages. Says, devotees, you go home. Come back after some time, after some days, after some weeks. Because he doesn't know how is this going to end. Gives vibhuti, gets prasadam distributed to all the devotees, tell them go home. But just like the Lord has love for the devotees love for the Lord. They don't want to give up their Lord. The devotee will be ready to give up everything. I'll give up my home, I'll give up my family, I'll give up my office, I'll give up my position, I'll give up my organization, I'll give up anything. But I don't want to give up my Swami. With this happening, with vibhuti and prasadam being given, devotees decide, no, we want to stay. What is this? No, Swami, we didn't come for your prasadam. We didn't come for your vibhuti. We didn't come for the gifts that your hand can give. Swami, we have come for you. This is a message we should always keep in our mind. Swami, your hand can give us the entire world, but we are not coming for your hand. We are coming for you, Swami. We want you. We want you. That was the 1st of July. But as Swami had said, the news of the paralysis has not been announced. So now rumors began. It is said that even before truth can wear its shoes, rumor travels around the world. So various rumors. Some people started saying positive rumors like, Swami is in Samadhi. He is in a deep trance. Some others started saying that a black magic has worked on Swami and he is affected. Some others said that he is in a dreaded disease. Some people even began to speak that Swami will be no more. All these rumors began. So much of fear, so much of worry, so much of tension. That is what happened on the 1st of July, Monday, Moon Day as I said. Then comes the 2nd of July, Tuesday. On Tuesday, Swami seemed a little better, a little stronger. And that was when Swami actually gave an indication of what had happened. Swami said, over the last 3 days, I have had 2 massive heart attacks. There has been a stroke as well. And all this Swami is speaking with half his mouth, through whispers and through hoarse hisses. So Swami is saying that this is what has happened over the last 3 days. This whole situation will last 5 days, don't worry. There also, Swami is reassuring. Swami is saying, don't worry, this will last 5 days, after which it will be over. And then Swami tells all the doctors who come, let them not administer any injections. While I am telling, let them not administer any injection, I am shaking my head and telling. Just wondering how Swami must have said that. Swami said, let them not administer any injection. Let them have darshan and leave. Even in that scenario, in that situation, Swami is continuing to grant darshan and blessings. So that night, Tuesday night, Dr. B. Sitaramaya, who was heading the Sri Sathya Sai General Hospital, he arrived. He decided to stay by Swami's bedside completely. Anyway, Swami had said that doctors can come and have darshan. He sat there, darshan, massaging Swami's feet. Whole night, stayed up there. Again, that was a night filled with groans and moans. Somehow they are trying to feed Swami some nutrition so that the body can sustain and survive. 3 days without any nutrition. Do we need any other testimony to show that that's not an ordinary body as well? It's not just about the life in that body that was special. That body is also very unique and special. Never, na bhuto na bhavishyati. It cannot be replicated. Let's move on to the 3rd of July, Wednesday. in the morning 9 a.m., they observed that Swami breathing became very, very shallow. Swami began to have hiccups. Swami was sinking, he was struggling to breathe. Rumors began to spread so fast that it's all over now. It's all over. Sathya Sai Baba will be no more. Professor Kasturi didn't know what to do, just left that place, came walking down. Family, the mother and father, Mother Ishwaramma, Pedda Venkaparaju, everybody, they all gathered sitting under a tree, crying and weeping and wondering, what can we do? What can we do? The discussion went on for hours. What can we do but pray? Swami, 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 you are only our refuge. What do we do, Swami? And as they are praying like this, somebody comes with the good news. Swami, they say, Swami has woken up. Swami is out. Swami is speaking. Very quickly they wipe their tears. They are thrilled. They rush back. And yes, Swami has indeed regained his consciousness. He is trying to speak. Nobody is able to understand. But that joy lasts only for 2 hours, because after that again Swami goes back into his coma. And now what scene had happened near the mango tree now happens around Swami. Everybody sitting around Swami. They are weeping and crying. In the evening at around 5 o'clock or 5:30 possibly, Swami again opens his eyes and smiles at them, calls them and tells them. Swami actually gives a discourse. Swami says, the mind is a 1,000-petaled lotus. And in the center of that lotus is the flame called I. Not the ego, the I, the Atma. But this flame constantly keeps flickering towards one petal or the other. That's why it gets agitated, disturbed, worried. But if we manage to keep that flame steady, focused, then nothing will affect. That is what I am doing. Nothing will affect. Don't worry. In fact, Swami says, I am not suffering anything. I am watching my own body from above. Swami says, I am watching my body from above. Gives them little strength. Because Swami knows what's coming next. Will need them to have that strength. Swami then tells them, tonight, all of you sleep here only around me. One of the devotees asks, why, Swami, is something terrible going to happen? Is there going to be another heart attack? Swami says, yes, the biggest among them all will be there tonight. This is a very, very, I don't know what to say of this situation, On one hand, this statement from Swami should remove all your fears. Because see here, he's telling like a commentary what's going to happen next, what is there, like he is in charge, he is in total control. And yet our attachment to that beautiful form. No, Swami, I cannot bear to see this beautiful form go through another heart attack. No, Swami, no. Swami said, no, but you sleep here. Yes, inevitable. That happens. Another very, very harrowing and difficult night. And then comes Thursday morning, the 4th of July 1963. This is the 6th day. And Swami had said 5 days it will be there. So they are very, very happy. 6th day, Swami, some good news, please. And indeed, there is good news. Swami gets up. Swami opens his eyes. Swami says, the pain is all gone. The burning in the chest is no longer there. But Swami, the hand and leg are still paralyzed. The face is still like that only. This is in their thoughts. Nobody of course expresses it. But even as Swami says he is feeling fine, again what is the next thing he immediately says? I wish to go down and give darshan to my devotees. Swami, what love, Swami, what? I really don't know what punya we have done that we know you, we have seen you, that we have got the opportunity to love you. Such love. Anytime, later also in 2003 or 2000, yeah, that was 2003 when Swami underwent those surgeries, one for the eye and one for the hip. The doctor who had to give anesthesia was so agitated. Swami gave vibhuti and said, don't worry Bangaru, you'll be fine, you give anesthesia. And when Swami regained consciousness after the surgery, first thing he called and said to the students who were serving him, arrange food and tiffin and snacks for all the doctors. Take good care of them. This is our Bhagwan. Selfless. Always his devotees. That doesn't change. Even now that's the case, dear brothers and sisters. Let's not think that this was when Swami was there in the physical form. Even now for Swami, his devotees come first. He's always wanting to serve his devotees. I really don't know whether devotees serve the Lord or the Lord serves the devotees. Because when the devotees serve the Lord, but it's not perfect. But the Lord is so perfect in his selflessness when he serves the devotees. So as I said, when Swami said, let's go, I'll go down and give darshan to the devotees now. Everyone around said, Swami, not today, Swami, please not now. Day after, let us do it day after. Day after is Guru Purnima day. And when all of them pleaded together, Swami said, okay, fine. Go make an announcement that on Guru Purnima day, Bhagwan, Swami will give darshan. And then Swami said, see, when they see me on Guru Purnima, they will be shocked. They should not get such a shock. So now tell them about the condition. Don't tell what has happened. Just tell the condition. Say how Swami's feet, how Swami's foot, lay, hand, how they are, what condition they are in. That's all. No need to tell anything else. So now Professor Kasturi goes again to make this announcement. As we read this, we wonder what happened. How come all the devotees are there? Because Swami had told them to all go. That's what it is. More devotees had gathered after this announcement than before. So these devotees, when they heard, everyone began to cry and sob uncontrollably. In fact, Professor Kasturi himself was not able to convey this. As he was speaking, he broke down. And his torture was multiple times what he had to go through, because he had to do this in other languages as well. He announced all this and he told everybody what Swami's condition was. And then returned back to Swami to convey that he had done the task allotted to him. And once again, the vigil continued. At night, that Thursday night, Swami told, again, Swami opened his eyes and said, the clot in the brain has dissolved. That was great news for everyone. The clot in the brain has dissolved. They were happy. Swami, the ordeal is coming to an end, which had started the previous Friday, now the Thursday. And then came the 5th of July, a Friday. And the whole day was spent in everybody trying to convince Swami that Swami, tomorrow is Guru Purnima, the 6th of July, but please don't go for darshan. Swami, we can have darshan first on the Krishna Janmashtami day. Some others said it would be best that we do it for Dasara. Krishna Janmashtami was a good 40 days away. Dasara comes in October. Swami, for Dasara we'll have a grand celebration. You should take rest, Swami. Swami frowned upon all of that. Swami said, nothing doing. On Guru Purnima day we'll go down. I'll give darshan. And that is how the 6th of June dawned. Sorry, not the 6th of June, the 6th of July. The 6th of July dawned. And Swami had to be helped down a circular staircase. From Swami's room to down, there's a small spiral staircase. Even two people can't stand side by side on that staircase. Through that staircase, Swami had to come down. And as the interview room door opened and Swami was brought out, because all the devotees had assembled in the bhajan hall, Swami was going to speak from the bhajan hall. Not speak, Swami was going to give darshan in the bhajan hall, sitting on the chair. There were more than 5,000 devotees who had gathered. All of them didn't fit in the bhajan hall, but everywhere people had gathered. And when they saw Swami like that, everyone began to wail, cry. Swami is dragging his foot. Everyone began to almost shout out, why did you bring Swami down? Why are you not taking care of Swami? It's really a difficult position to be in as a servitor of Bhagwan. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. The devotees are now shouting at them saying, why you didn't take good care? Why have you brought him down? Why are you harassing Swami? Why are you troubling Swami? Swami should rest. Is anybody in charge? Only Bhagwan is in charge. That is something we have to remember. Whatever is happening around, whatever is happening anywhere, Swami is in charge. Let's think of Swami and focus on Swami alone. Everything else at best is a distraction, that's all. Focus on Swami. Swami, Swami, Swami. Swami was seated on the chair. His left hand is limp. So a pillow was placed and his hand was kept on that. Left side is still paralyzed. And Swami is again whispering and Professor Kasturi has to hear and translate it. Swami is telling the devotees, don't worry, don't feel sad. This is an illness that I have taken over. Nothing can touch Swami. No illness can ever touch Swami. The words that they hear, but they are seeing their Swami in front like this. Professor Kasturi is asked to speak and he gives a speech. In his speech, he is unable to bear his emotions. He breaks down multiple times. He tells, this Purnima, Guru Purnima is a day when there is a full moon, that's why it's called Purnima. He says this Purnima for us is like an Amavasya. It's like a dark night. Amavasya is a new moon day when the moon is not seen. So he says, Swami, we want you to recover so that the coming Amavasya, which is 14 days later, becomes a Purnima for us. Because for us, Purnima and Amavasya are not dependent on the moon. You are our everything. Swami, it depends on you. This is what Professor Kasturi says. And again, Swami shrugs and asks for water. Raja Reddy Garu gets a silver tumbler filled with water. And Swami tries to drink water, but his hand, even his right hand, is shivering and shaking. He takes a little bit of water and Swami speaks into the mic. Swami says, Swami, Vinipistunda. Swami is asking, are you able to hear? Now Swami picks water from the glass with his right hand, sprinkles it on his left hand. Takes some more water, sprinkles it on his left leg. Then with his right hand, he gently strokes the left hand. The left hand comes back. And then with both his hands, he gently strokes his left leg. And then Bhagwan Sri Sathya Sai Baba stands up in full majesty and glory. The whole congregation goes mad in joy, thrill, excitement. What is it? They just run, hugging each other, celebrating. What joy it is, right? What joy it is. Swami is just standing there. And then Swami speaks. Swami's first statement, Dikkuleni variki devude gati. For those without refuge, God is the only refuge. Swami says. And then, Swami continues in his discourse, speaking of how there is this devotee who was supposed to suffer a stroke, a severe stroke and multiple cardiac arrests. Swami decided to save this devotee and take it upon himself. And then in that discourse, the discourse on the Guru Purnima of 1963, it is there. You can read it. It's there on multiple websites. Swami says that people are asking me who is that devotee for whose paralytic stroke and cardiac stroke. Who is this devotee whose paralytic stroke and cardiac stroke Swami took over? Swami says that devotees are asking me this. I will not. If I say this, that devotee will come to so much harm because of all your anger, because of your attachment for me. I will not tell. And at that time, there were also a few devotees who tried to look around for people who are possibly half paralyzed or slightly limping and thinking maybe this person's Swami took over. And Swami tells in the discourse that also. Swami says people are looking at people who are limping or people who are having shoulder pain or people who are slightly sick and wondering whether Swami has taken over from them. Swami says, do you think I will take over partially? Do you think I'll tell my devotee, you suffer 20%, I'll take over 80%? I've taken over completely. The devotee doesn't even know, has not even had a cough. All this Swami tells in the discourse. But then more importantly, Swami says, every action of the avatar has multiple meanings, and I'm going to reveal something I've never revealed before. Swami reveals how sage Bharadwaja wanted to gain the knowledge of the Vedas, and he began to meditate. He finished one lifetime in meditation and prayed for a prolonging of his lifetime to another lifetime so that he can learn everything in the Vedas. Multiple times this happens till finally Indra comes and tells him, "O sage, look at those 4 mountains. Those are the Vedas, and all that you have mastered till now." Picks up a handful of dust and says, "Is this?" Meaning, don't try this way. You cannot do it through your prowess. You need the grace of the Lord. Pray to Shiva, and that is the only way you can get this. And Bharadwaja goes to Kailasa to pray to Lord Shiva. But Shiva and Parvati are engaged in the celestial dance, the Tandavam and the Lasyam. And so sage Bharadwaja in the cold waits there. At that point in time, Mother Parvati's glance happens to fall on Bharadwaja, but she continues to dance with Lord Shiva. The dance goes on for 7 days. Because of the cold, sage Bharadwaja gets a stroke. He's paralyzed and he's fallen there. Then when Lord Shiva notices, he comes and takes water from his kamandalu and puts it on sage Bharadwaja and revives him. And he says, "I am pleased with your penance and devotion. What you are seeking is already yours, don't worry." And then Lord Shiva also promises him, "In your lineage, in your family line, I will take birth. We will take birth. Once as Shiva alone, that is Shirdi Sai. Once as Shiva and Shakti, both of us together, Sathya Sai. And then Mother Shakti alone as Prema Sai." And then Shiva continues. He says that all this divine drama has been done to grant this boon to you. But then the rule, the law of karma is inescapable for every body. And so, when I come as Shiva and Shakti, Mother Shakti will suffer the same stroke that you suffered for 5 days. And then, just like I revived you with water from the kamandalu, I will revive her as well. Swami revealed this history, the multiple reasons, the multiple layers in every action of Bhagwan. After that, when that got over, Swami concluded with the bhajan, "Subramanyam, Subramanyam, Shanmukhanatha, Subramanyam, 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 Shanmukhanatha, Subramanyam." But all the devotees were shouting and singing, "Sainatha, Subramanyam." In that, Shiva Sharavana Bhava Subramanyam, Guru Sharavana Bhava Subramanyam comes, that line. And Swami sang this in first speed, second speed and third speed. Shiva Sharavana Bhava Subramanyam, Guru Sharavana Bhava Subramanyam. I'm struggling. There was one Dr. Bhanu who was seated in the audience. And he was a doctor, right? And he was saying, "I got worried. Swami, just now your tongue has got the ability to speak. Now when you do Guru Sharavana Bhava, Shiva Sharavana Bhava, you do this so fast, the stroke may come again. Please relax, Swami." But then he also writes, "I just recollected that what a fool I am being, because right now what is it that we have witnessed? What did we witness? And how can I think that By this something will happen. So he just let go of all that and he too joined in the joyous singing of that bhajan. Shiva Sharamana Bhava Subramanyam, Guru Sharamana Bhava Subramanyam, Shiva Shiva Hara Hara Subramanyam, Hara Hara Shiva Shiva Subramanyam. Subramanyam, Subramanyam, Chanmukanatha Subramanyam. Swami sang this bhajan. That was how that Guru Purnima 1963 became unforgettable. Towards the end of that discourse, Swami said, from this day onwards, nothing can delay or obstruct the work for which the avatar has come. In the previous avatar, you saw one Govardhana mountain being lifted, referring to the Krishna avatar. In this avatar, you will see multiple Govardhana mountains being lifted. The Shiva-Shakti avatar. We don't have to feel that we have missed out on the Shiva or the Shakti because both came for us. That is the Sathya Sai Avatar, and let us remember that when Swami said that from this day on nothing can obstruct Swami's mission. If at all we think that something is being obstructed, it is because it's our own foolishness or because we are thinking that this particular thing is Swami's mission. We have a wrong definition of Swami's mission. What is the right definition of Swami's mission? For everything we have to visit only Swami's discourses. During the 50th birthday celebrations in 1975, there were 9 discourses that Swami delivered. 9 or 8 discourses. In one of the discourses, Swami clearly said, there's only one religion, the religion of love. There's only one caste, the caste of humanity. There's only one language, the language of the heart. There's only one God. He is omnipresent. He is Sathya Sai. And everybody clapped because, wow, Swami is telling Sathya Sai. But in the discourse that followed, Swami said, you're all clapping because you're referring to Sathya Sai as this 5 feet frame. Satya Sai is Sathya Sai. Satya Sai means one who rests or one who sleeps on truth. Swami says one who rests on truth, one who is based on truth, that is Sathya Sai. And what is this truth? Again, beautifully in the course of the discourse, Swami explains. Swami says, this wall that you see here is made of atoms. And each atom is made of electrons, neutrons and protons. And these particles are so small, they are there in the atom like stars in the sky, so much of empty space. So all these atoms are more than 98% empty space. And yet you call it a solid wall. How can this be a solid wall if it is 98% empty space? And Swami says, because what appears to be the truth and what is the truth, they are different. Swami continues. Swami says, you sit in a car and say you are moving. You sit in a bike, you say you are moving. You sit in a cart and you say you are moving. But you sit on the floor and you say you are not moving. Everybody knows that the earth is moving at such and such a speed. So when you are on the ground, you are moving. And yet, though everyone knows it, everyone says they are not moving. Why? And Swami says, because what appears as the truth and what is the truth are different. And then during the course of that same discourse, Swami says, there are people from so many countries in this auditorium. 1975. Swami says, all are one. And then Swami says, you may wonder, some are tall, some are short, some are white, some are different colors, how can all be one? All are one because what appears as the truth and what is the truth are totally different. The truth is all are one, all are divine. And then Swami goes on to say, the only purpose of any Sathya Sai organization, of any organization that bears the Sri Sathya Sai name, the only purpose is to spread this truth, is to share this truth that all are divine, everything is divine. That's all. That's all is the purpose of the avatar. That's all is the goal of the avatar. That's all is the mission of the avatar. Everything else is incidental. That's all. So if we think that, oh, what is happening to avatar's mission, it's our foolishness, nothing. Swami declared on that Guru Purnima day, nothing can obstruct the work for which the avatar has come. So indeed, it is a time to celebrate. It's a time to reconnect. It's a time to connect deeply. It's a time to begin talking to Swami, conversing with him, and praying that Swami, let me do my part in your mission. And what is my part? My part is to ensure that I reside in this truth always. The truth that everything that I see around me is divine. That everything around me, it is Swami. Let me start seeing Swami in everything. Let me start feeling His presence in everything. Swami, let me love you. Let my heart be filled with only you. Let my mind be filled with only you. Let my body be filled with only you. Let everything that I see, hear, smell, touch or taste be filled with only you. May our love for you keep growing every passing moment. Thank you. Jai Sai Ram.